my challenge to people out there is don't think too small. Don't think that buying a multi-million-dollar is out of the question. There's ways to do it, and you don't have to accept, a small mental thought process. Think bigger, and you can definitely achieve bigger.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you're literally speaking my language. Yeah, think and go big, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, so welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve. Today's guest is Jordan Messick from Coastal Building Supply in Wilmington, North Carolina. How you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Hey, so why don't you tell everybody about the history of Coastal Building Supply? How did it get started, and how did you become the owner of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Coastal Building Supply, formerly Fitzgerald Wood Products, was started in 1994 by Patrick Fitzgerald, who's a lifelong woodpreneur himself in many aspects of imported tropical hardwoods with a focus in teak for marine and boating applications. Over the years, that kind of transitioned into more of a residential use of tropical hardwoods. And I actually bought the company in January of 2022, and we rebranded in June of 2023 to Coastal Building Supply from Fitzgerald Wood Products.
That's awesome. And what was your background? What made you pull the trigger and want to buy a lumber company?
Yeah, great question. So I was not in the construction industry whatsoever, or had little to no knowledge of tropical hardwoods or in many of the species that we stock and sell on a daily basis. My background is in business and completely unrelated industries. I was a director of sales for an emergency medical supplier prior to purchasing Fitzgerald Wood Products, now Coastal Building Supply. So I had about 15 years of experience in different corporate jobs and sales management and director of sales in various industries, and felt that I had gained the knowledge and business experience to go out on my own. I went to UNC Wilmington for the entrepreneurship and business development program, and I've been a hobbyist woodworker for the past 15 years. So those two roads pretty much intersected my experience in business and my passion for woodworking, and this opportunity presented itself. So I pulled the trigger, and it's kind of interesting how those two things collided, but it's worked out well, and I'm having a great time with it.
That's really cool. So in the past year and change, I'd come across this idea of acquiring businesses that are existing and, improving them and what have you. Like, why didn't you go out and start your own lumber company? Why did you go the route of buying?
I looked at a couple of different options to get to being an employer versus an employee. I knew I wanted to own my own company and work for myself, and I looked at options starting from the ground up and reinventing the wheel, buying franchises. I investigated a few different and did some analysis on a few different franchise opportunities. But really, I had established a lifestyle and a cost of living, and didn't want to start, from scratch and spend a few years building up to a profitable cash flowing business. So I was able to find a company that was well established. The prior owner was ready to retire, and I found, it looked like a business that had a ton of upward potential that I could come in, make an immediate impact. And so decided to go with the purchase of an existing business with a strong cash flow that had a lot of opportunity for growth, versus trying to start from scratch and blaze my own trail.
And how did you find out the business was for sale in your hometown, nonetheless?
In my hometown, yeah. I never even I was not familiar with the company. It's funny, I was a hobbyist woodworker doing, really, I became a woodworker just out of necessity. I bought my first home and didn't have any furniture, and couldn't really afford any furniture, so I was taking pallets from my company prior employer and building bedside tables and headboards and just random stuff. So it would have been nice to know about this company prior to buying it. But it's right here in my hometown of Wilmington, North Carolina, right in the middle of town. It was never marketed. The company was established based on word of mouth and repeat business from a core group of custom home builders here in town, and not really marketed to the public. The way I found out from it was one of my good friends was in the process of trying to buy Fitzgerald Wood Products at the time, and he let me know about it. He said, "Hey, I'm looking at two companies, one being in the wood industry, one being in metal fabrication. If I don't buy the wood company, it'd be a perfect fit for you to investigate." So that's exactly what happened. He made an offer on both. His offer didn't get accepted on my company, and it did get accepted on Watson Portable Welding, a welding and fabrication shop in town. So once he accepted that deal, he introduced me to the business broker, and 5 months later, I walked into my first day of my new job at my new company, and really just started learning from there.
That's really, really cool. Can you talk about the mindset of like plunking down a lot of money and taking on a lot of debt in order to do? Could you just walk through that mindset? Like, how did you justify it in your head? Like, oh, this is a good investment. This is what I want to do. And I'm sure you had to get some other people around you on board with this idea, right? Like, could you talk through that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny timing, because at that same time that I was doing my due diligence of financial analysis and reviewing the P&Ls and making sure that it was a good, sound investment, we were in the process of building a new house, my wife and I. We were also pregnant, about to be having our first child, and I can't...
Stress.
Exactly. I came in from work one day and I said, "Honey, I found an opportunity for a business that I'd like to buy and walk away from my
good paying career." Yeah.
So she said, "Okay, well, we're building this big house and we're about to have a baby, and you're making really good money right now, and you've got great benefits and stuff. But if you think it's a good opportunity, I'll support it. So let's take a look at it."
There you go. You married the right one. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. But I have a lot of family in the industry. My father-in-law and brother-in-law are both, they're custom home builders in town. My brother is pretty high up in a large commercial contractor in town. So I was surrounded by the industry. I just hadn't personally been exposed to it. So a lot of it came down to the analysis. The company was cash flow, and it has had many years of subtle growth, not a ton of growth, but subtle growth, trending the right direction. Yeah. And I could just tell prior owner was ready to retire. If some new energy came in, and there is definitely levels that it can be taken to, and that's exactly what we're doing.
That's great. So you identified the right business. You really looked at the analysis, and so it made financial sense to make the investment in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a very analytical person. So reviewing the P&Ls, making sure that all that was good data going into those P&Ls, and then doing some industry analysis to see what other specialty lumber companies were trading at as a multiple of their EBITDA, and making sure that the business purchase price was more than rationalized by the performance of the company. And then doing some interviews with some of the top customers and suppliers to make sure that the numbers were legitimate and that the reputation was there. The company, most of what I was buying was the goodwill of the company. There was some inventory included. There was one delivery truck included, but there wasn't a lot of tangible asset included in that purchase price. It was majority goodwill. So I did do some investigation on the goodwill that I was buying, which is that supply chain relationship and that customer base that I was.
And the building, right? And the building?
The building is, I leased the property, so I don't own the properties, and there's no real property that was transferred in that purchase. So optimistic that one day I'll be able to purchase the property, but we're sitting on 4 acres here. We've got a 7,000 square foot warehouse. We've got 4 other tenants on the property. There's 2 buildings, and there's actually 6 tenants on this property. So within the next couple of months, I should be taking over another 2,500 square feet, and by the end of this year, taking it over another 3,000 square feet. So by the beginning of 2024, I'm hopeful that we'll be operating about 12,000 square feet.
Amazing. So you sign the purchase agreement, and I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't say is that, like, you got an SBA loan, didn't you?
Yeah, so I looked at a bunch of different ways on how to fund the deal, and I found, I went and considered private investments from friends, family, angel investors, hard money options, conventional bank loans, SBA loans, and I looked at all these different options, and the cheapest money that I could find with the least amount that I had to put down turned out to be a SBA loan. So I started investigating the SBA loan process. It is a long process, but it's worth it. It was the least amount that I had to put down out of pocket. I was able to finance some operating capital into the deal, which came back at the time of closing the deal, and it was the lowest interest rate, and I didn't have to give up any equity in the company to other investors.
Isn't SBA awesome? Like,
it's amazing.
As a tool for somebody that wants to, like, invest in a business. Like, I feel like that's like a good government program. Like,
it is. It's fantastic, and depending on your local banks, there's SBA experts in most of them. And so once I knew I was going to go the SBA route, I interviewed 3 different banks and compared rates, and it ultimately ended up going with Truist, which has been a great bank to work with thus far. They had a great program, and so, I would encourage anybody out there, basically I ended up writing a business plan for the existing business. I included my areas that I was going to look to improve and grow the business. I provided them with a resume, and then, packaged this whole presentation together to be an attractive, person for them to invest in. And it was kind of a lot of hurdles to get over in the SBA loan process, but it's a great program. It's the cheapest money I could find, and so far so good.
That's awesome. Did you have to give a personal guarantee?
I did. Yep. So my house is on the line for the company.
But it's working out. Don't worry. Right?
Yeah.
It's working out.
So, you have to have skin in the game, whether that comes.
No matter what, you have to put skin on the game.
Exactly. You got to put, that program, I believe it was 10% down, 10% of the purchase price in liquid cash you have to put down, and then you have to cover a portion of that loan depending on the assets of the purchase agreement. You have to cover a portion of the rest of it with some other form of asset, which for me came in the form of equity in my home.
For sure. So when you bought it, so it came with some employees, like, what was that first day, first week, first month like? Like, what was it? So I know there's one thing, I've never bought a business, but I've, obviously started. And there's, like, even when people start a business, there's like a day one, but, like, you had like a real day one, right? Like, what was that like? And you talk through just the mindset, or I do, I mentioned mindset multiple times, but I mean, and for those that don't know, Jordan and I, we collaborate, we work together, and he just has like an amazing mindset and it's like abundant growth mindset as it relates to his business. So could you talk through a little bit about, like, your approach, like management culture, like, rolling into buying this business?
Yeah, absolutely. So day one was kind of interesting. It was like everybody walking on eggshells because they, the current employees knew that ownership was changing hands and didn't know if I was bringing in my own employees and cleaning house, if they were going to be out on a job or if they were going to be able to prove their worth and stick around. For me, I didn't want to shake anything up. I actually, on day one, presented myself to our customers and suppliers as the new GM of the company, not the new owner. So it was probably not until 3 or 4 months in that I changed my job title and actually let them know I was the owner, because what I was buying was the customer base and the supply chain, and I didn't want to have come in and have a big shakeup that right down to the employees as well. I didn't want to come in and assert myself immediately. I wanted to come in and learn, and so that's what I did. Is I job shadowed each employee as if I was their trainee. I was out helping pull orders and sweeping the warehouse and have the mentality of, I'm going to be here willing to stand right beside you in the trenches and do your job, and I'm going to understand everybody's job here and work hand in hand, not as a more of a lateral employee, not as a hierarchy of I'm your boss, go do this, and I'm going to sit here in the office. So I think that mentality and that approach really helped them warm up quickly to a new owner and a new boss, and the fact that I was willing to jump in and pick up broken pieces of pallet in the parking lot right there with my warehouse manager and employees. So I think that's the key thing is coming in with that kind of an attitude of, I want to learn your job and I want to learn how, you do things on a daily basis, and then we can improve together.
And how did the team respond to that?
Great. It was probably on day 3 that they kind of teamed up and pulled me aside and said, "Hey, we just want to know what your going forward plan is. Do we have long-term potential here? Do we need to be looking for other opportunities outside of this business?" And it was a pretty candid, kind of took me by surprise. And I was like, "Look, hey, I bought this company. I bought an existing company. I bought something that is already working. Yeah, I want to make improvements and grow it, but I have every intention on keeping every employee here, provided that you're doing your job and providing value and providing good customer service and have a good attitude." I said, and that's exactly what we did. We did maintain the employees. I did, as part of the purchase agreement, I did have a 6-month independent contractor agreement, which if anybody is considering purchasing a company and it's a small or mom and pop operation where there is a key person, in this case, it was the prior owner, Patrick Fitzgerald. As part of the purchase agreement, I did hold back a percentage of the purchase price, and we had an independent contractor agreement with clearly defined items that he had to complete, which included him working for 6 months for a transition period, so that there wasn't an abrupt line in the sand of ownership. There was this really smooth transition over a 6-month period where he kind of faded out of the picture, and I kind of expanded my role within the company. So it was good. And then at the end of that 1-year mark, of course, I had to cut him a fat check for that he fulfilled his contractor agreement, which he did, and he's still a great resource. I can call him anytime if there's some kind of crazy specialty request from a customer and I'm stumped on it. I can call him anytime. So that really helped to maintain that relationship.
Cool. So talk about what products, services do you guys provide?
So we have 3 main product categories. The key product category that the company has always been known for is the imported tropical hardwoods. So we're selling Ipe, Torum, Master and Duba, Red Balau, Yellow Balau, Garapa, Angel and Pedra, Mahogany, a lot of different species that come from all over the world. And the bigger volume applications we sell those products into are going to be decking, exterior siding, rain screen siding, outdoor showers, gazebos, fencing. So a lot of those different and porch ceilings and soffits is a big application. So the import tropical hardwoods are the biggest part of our business. Since I bought the company, I've expanded into the domestic custom lumber offering. So we're milling and kiln drying here locally with a partner, and we're offering live edge slabs, mantles, dimensional lumber, and that's all your domestic walnut, poplar, white oak, red oak, maple, hickory, and all your domestic logs that we're getting and milling and kiln drying about 20 miles away from our facility, and so the domestic custom milled lumber is a second product offering, and then our third product offering is the synthetic building materials. We're seeing an industry-wide acceptance of synthetic building materials and primarily siding materials. So new cedar PVC, that's a pre-finished PVC siding that we're selling a lot in place of your standard eastern white cedar or western red cedar shingles. We're selling a lot of boral, which is a poly-ash composite trim and siding material. We're selling Indeck, which is a PVC deck board.
Sounds like I don't want to cut you up, but it sounds like you had to learn a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. You're probably spouting out things you're like, how do I even know? How did I get to this point in my life where I know all of this stuff? Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It is, but it's fun for me because I'll see every single customer and every single project as this puzzle to solve. They have an idea, they come in, they're not educated on the products to achieve that idea. So it's fun for me to learn these different building materials and then be able to help a customer, realize whatever vision they have. And, they don't know about the tropical hardwoods. They don't know about the synthetic building materials that they could use to achieve whatever aesthetic they're looking for. So there is a lot of different things, but that's what's making us, grow exponentially, is that we're selling more product to our existing customer base. So that's one of our growth strategies here is to expand our product offering and to capture more building materials off of that single custom home. Historically the company may only have provided the EP decking for a house, which that's great. It's a $20,000 decking package. That's awesome. But if we can also capture the siding on that house, the trim on that house, and the porch ceilings on that house, that may take a $20,000 customer, house up to $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 for one house package.
So I remember you had said that, which is great, because now like you're able to add more value and upsell people on more products for their home project. One of the things that I found fascinating was not only do you provide products, but you provide value add service. So like, you talk about that a little bit. Like what are the other value adds that you provide to your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I bought the company, delivery was not a big thing here. Last year I invested in a flatbed with a forklift on the back, or a Moffett truck, a lot of people refer to it as. That was something that our customers asked for to make life easier for them, and us having a better delivery service. So I've invested in a big truck, and that immediately had an impact on business. We went from doing maybe 3 deliveries a week to now we're averaging 4-5 deliveries a day. And that's because of having that delivery service with the forklift on the big flatbed. We can carry 30,000 pounds. It's a 25-foot deck. And the Moffett is a 4-way, so it can crab walk, and it can put 20-foot boards behind a beach house with very little room to navigate. That was something that's a service to the customer that we provide and has really helped increase business. Another service that we've started offering is helping contractors with their takeoffs. And when we say takeoff, we're talking about looking at a drawing set and helping them decide how much material they need for their decking or for their siding. So we invested in software here called PlanSwift. I'd encourage anybody that's interested to take a look at it. It's a real intuitive, easy to use software. You buy it once and then you have a renewal every year. But our customers now will send us a drawing of, a PDF drawing You can pull it into the software, and within a few clicks, it'll tell you how much square footage of decking, how much square footage of siding, how many linear feet of handrails or trim, how many square feet of porch ceilings, and put it all into a nice, easy to read summary. And we can then provide the customer a quote. And now we're providing a value add service and doing the takeoff for them. If a lot of contractors are doing that by hand, and that saved them hours of flipping an architectural ruler around on a big drawing set. The other thing it helped us do is it now shows us their full house plan, and so we can pick up things off that drawing that they didn't ask us to quote and present that back to them. So now, we're looking at the plan and we realize, oh, they've got 1x6 white oak tongue and groove accent walls, or they have some shiplap, or they have something that they didn't ask us to quote. But now that we have their drawing set and we're doing this takeoff for them, we're going to go ahead and put those other options laid out in the quote as line items. And a lot of times they say, oh, I didn't even know you guys could provide that. That's great. I would much rather just give you guys the order and get it all from you. So it helps.
Making it easy. You make it. I mean, part of, and the thing that I've learned a lot, and it sounds like you tapped into, is you got to lower the resistance level for people to buy it from you, right?
Absolutely.
And by adding, you're basically saying, I'm going to save you time, which people don't have, and I'm gonna make it easy for you to get everything that you need. So that's one phone call that you need to make in order for you to fulfill this job. Oh, and by the way, I mean, like, at least your lumber and your building materials are taken care of. But these people also have plumbers, they got electricians, they got so many other people. And if you could be a trusted partner in them completing their job, they're gonna always come back to you, right?
That's right. And like you say, just making it easy as possible to do business. There's a few other things that we saw. Customers were asking for terms, and that wasn't super common for our company to offer prior. Now, you got a builder that's out building 15 custom homes a year. He's gonna be good for it. We do a credit check, but offering those terms, making it easier for them, offering delivery, and fill in deliveries at no charge. Once we're doing a full house project, they can call us for 5 more pieces and we'll shoot it right out to them. So having that flexibility and being nimble and providing that customer service, like you say, it just makes it so easy for them that as long as we're providing a good product at a fair price, they just call in the order.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible, man. And so what is life like now for you? Like, talk about like why, like what, before you bought this business and now, like what is life like for you on a daily basis? And I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, those are two vastly different things. What I thought I was going to do on a daily basis to what I do on a daily basis. So going into it, I thought, I'm going to be able to spend a lot of time out of the office, going and meeting with contractors and really doing business development and spending my time building relationships and out in the field and these things, which is what I love to do. I love the thrill of the deal, the hunt for the new customer, the building the relationship with a new builder, and that's what I thought I would do. Fast forward to owning and operating the company. There's a lot of days where we've got a delivery driver or two out on the road. We've got a customer coming in to pick up, and I'm find myself on the forklift loading lumber into a guy's truck, or somebody's coming in and I need to help take a slab off the slab wall and help them get it loaded. So we're growing so quickly that I haven't had the opportunity to go out and do that business development, which is great. I'm not complaining at all by that, but more or less my day is facilitating our business, making sure we have inventory to cover the routinely purchased items, making sure that our delivery fleet is good and everything is on track there. And so my day to day now is doing a lot of that, doing a lot of the takeoffs myself. Now we've just hired a new account manager who I'm very excited to be able to pass a lot of those day-to-day tasks off and fill in for me, so I can try to get to that business development mindset of going out and meeting with customers and doing the things that I envisioned that I would be doing more so on a daily basis. But it is it's a small company. It's wearing every single hat, from sweeping the warehouse floor to helping hand unload a delivery if we need to, and pretty much every aspect of overseeing the purchasing, overseeing the inventory control, overseeing all these different aspects of day-to-day operations that aren't so glamorous as the business development concept would be.
So it's really interesting. So I as you were talking, I was just thinking about what you've done is increased your the business is essentially an inventory product-based business, not necessarily service. And you do provide services in which you've mitigated the risk by partnering with somebody that can fulfill with Coastal Live Edge, right?
Yep.
They do the outsourcing, but people come to you, and so therefore you're able to upsell somebody else's services, get a markup, keep the customer into your pipeline. But the fascinating thing that I'm thinking about is you don't need a lot of customers to make good money. And with the value add and the diversity of your product, you are able to, every customer just becomes worth more.
Exactly. That's the goal, is to expand the lifetime value of the customer.
Yeah.
And through more product offering and exceptional customer service. And you're right. I had a few criteria when I bought a company, and one of those was no skilled labor, very few employees, and those are things that I've been adamant about. So we did partner with Coastal Live Edge. A good buddy of mine, John McDowell, owns a sawmill. He runs a Woodmiser LT35. He's got 2 kilns, a Nile DH and a iDry vacuum kiln, and then he's got a fabrication shop. So we can have a customer come in, they can pick out their own slab, they can give us their dimensions of their finished floating shelves, their countertop, or whatever it is.
Yeah, tribes, whatever. Yeah,
exactly. And then we send that back over to John's shop. They handle all the fabrication, they handle the install, and we bill the customer. So it's outsourcing a lot of labor and employees and capital equipment that I otherwise would have to invest in and handle all the headaches of those myself, which is working out very well.
And if nobody comes in for any custom fabrication shop work, it's no big deal, because you don't own that you don't own that line item, you don't own the expenses that come along with it.
Yeah, there's no overhead of any of those for me to have to cover. So, and John has his own customer base too that he can continue to operate without having to rely on me. Although we're going to have doubled his business in a pretty short amount of time.
You're growing his business even more.
Oh, exponentially growing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What does the future hold for you?
So we've been in this rocket growth mode since the first day that I stepped in the door last year. In our first year, we finished about 40% up. This year, we're on track to double the company, and that's really within 20-mile radius of our building. So my plans for strategic growth in the upcoming year are going to be through more of a geographic expansion. So working with some different distributor partners in other areas like the Raleigh market, like the Charlotte market, like the Myrtle Beach market, all areas that are rapidly growing, and there's a ton of construction going on there. Identifying a strategic partner in each of those locations, and then us owning the inventory and filling their orders on a job lot basis, opening a new product offering to them without them having to invest in the tropical hardwood inventory that we carry, and then we'll be able to do job lot order fulfillment. So they'll get the margin they want without having to hold any of the inventory. And we'll get expansion in our sales team through their employees and expand our footprint without carrying the cost of an additional location, the infrastructure there, the employees there, the additional delivery trucks there, and all those other investments that come along with multiple locations that we own. So our growth for this year is going to be to continue to expand our local customer base, but more importantly, to expand our geographic presence in North Carolina, South Carolina, and then continue to swell out from there.
That's awesome, man. Okay, so this is the part of the podcast where I give you any marketing or business advice. Is there something that you're struggling with that you need help with, or something that you need to think through that I could give you some insights on?
As far as, so I think probably some of our, my struggle has been not having the time to allocate to, some of the different areas, marketing areas, social media, content creation, social media planning, and, and overall branding and creating our group of people that we're going to market to. So that's been my challenge. And I think where, I see what you do in creating a customer base and creating a brand and creating consistent content. And that's probably, one of the biggest areas that I personally have a challenge.
Yeah. So, I love this question because it always comes down to, I don't produce all my content myself. Like, I have a content team that knows intuitively my style. And, even this podcast, when this podcast is done recording, I just post the link someplace and somebody else takes it and they run it and then they edit it and then it gets up on YouTube and everything else. And so, I mean, this is probably something that we could work on a little bit more. I think you just need a more of a team, but not in an over thought out way. And I think internally for you, and I feel like this is just speaking to everybody in general, is to not put so much weight on the content that you put out. And so everybody has this sort of perfectionist mindset as it relates to creating content and putting themselves out there. But like every little thing that you're doing is content, right? Taking your phone, taking a picture of this interview, that's content. Like you going and walk. I mean, and it's ridiculous how one of the things that is sort of pervasive is just the idea of the behind the scenes. So, it's like propping up your camera, like by your door and recording yourself for 5 seconds walking into your warehouse. Like that's a piece of content. Like every little thing is a piece of content because all it does is continue to tell the story about what you're doing. And so for you, I would just, I mean, and I know you, Jordan, but like for you, I would like not put so much weight and look at it as fun, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, I mean, let's create a system where you need a system for you to take the content and put it out. Like, I feel like a lot of people, like, I mean, I'm thinking of somebody big, right? Like a big, like Gary Vaynerchuk. You know Gary Vaynerchuk? You know that guy? Like, he's this big social media guru. Like, the guy produces content like a beast, but he's not posting all the time. He's got other people posting for him, posting as him, right? Like, he probably is producing a good amount himself, but he's got other people that are taking bits of his story. And like I said, I think you also have from a content perspective, like a brand positioning, that Jordan Messick, president, CEO of Coastal Building, could potentially come off as a Woodpreneur business investor, where you are, talking about the business side of growing a wood business, in addition to just talking about lumber and imported and domestic and serving your customers. I think you can probably build a brand around being like, hey, I'm an investor, multiple 7-figure, this is how I'm doing it. And then you can start attracting more of those higher end builders, because now you're speaking their same language, right? Like you're speaking, and your brand is more than just selling EP decking. Like that's more than that. And so maybe start to explore the idea of putting your thoughts, your business thoughts out there, your growth thoughts, and you have been doing it. Like, I've been seeing your social, like you are showing, lunch or barbecue with your team and deliveries being made. Like I would turn the camera on you today. This is what I'm working on. This is what we're doing. And the best part about the stories is I would record them first on your phone and then save them and then upload them later as stories. But just record them, because eventually those little bits and pieces can end up on different social platforms. But I think, capturing more of your day-to-day, and B, turning the camera and literally flex. And dude, you bought a company and you're doubling the revenue in a year and a half, like almost 2 years. Like that's really impressive. Like I think you have the opportunity to flex that even more, and then you'll start attracting the 10, 20, $30 million home builders in the area, because they're like, oh, this he's in my league.
Yeah, what really, you hit the nail on the head with. I think you try to create this perfect piece of content every time, instead of pushing the content out, and then you don't get around to creating the content that you've captured. So I think that mindset is definitely a shift that I need to have. And I go out and walk a job site and get these great pictures and video of beautiful installs happening. And I think later on, when I get back to the office, I'll edit these together and come up with this beautiful piece of content. And then 2 days go by and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to create this piece of content. And I think you're right. It's just being that you're wanting to present your brand in such a specific, perfect way that you prevent yourself from presenting your brand.
Yeah. And well, I think the only sort of tactical tip is, hey, if you're talking, just turn on the captions, because nobody has sound on. And dude, as you're walking a job site, the general contractor is your client, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Turn the camera on them and say, hey, John, introduce yourself. And then record them, tag them. I mean, people are used to it now. And I don't think anybody's if somebody one of your clients picks up a customer because you shouted them out, that's going to keep them as a customer for you for a long time, I mean,
yeah, I've definitely noticed the more you repost your customer stuff, the more you start to get tagged, and the more of a kind of swirl effect that goes when then other builders see that you've reposted one of their competing builders, and now all of a sudden they're tagging you on their post too. So just being active and giving the shout outs, I can definitely see that organically builds content presented by other builders and subcontractors that are now tagging you to get featured on your social.
Cool. Awesome. Well, any last bit of parting advice for the Woodpreneur community?
I'm a very optimistic and visionary type of mindset person. My challenge to people out there is don't think too small. Don't think that buying a multi-million-dollar is out of the question. There's ways to do it, and you don't have to accept a small mental thought process. Think bigger, and you can definitely achieve bigger. So that's and I'm willing to take risks. Some people aren't, but I take risk and think bigger, and that's the mindset we have here, and are looking forward to continuing to grow.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you're literally speaking my language. Yeah, think and go big, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Well, thank you, Jordan, so much for sharing your story. It's really, really inspiring. This is one of my favorite ones because you're speaking my language. You're thinking growing big, acquiring businesses, and growing. So cool. Thank you so much, man. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, take care.